Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to my channel. Welcome to another video where I will be discussing some scripture in conjunction with symbolism and a logical perspective in order to help gain some deeper understanding. In today's video, we'll be discussing Matthew 6:24, Luke 16:13 out of the New King James Version of the Bible. So, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. So, a perspective to help gain some deeper clarity and understanding on this is, think about it from the perspective of the eye, all right? Everyone's favorite little symbol of the all-seeing eye and pyramid, right? When you look at it from that perspective and think about it from that point of view, it kind of starts to make sense. So think about what would happen if, from the perspective of sight, you tried to look at two different things at the same time. Kind of hard to do even with just one eye, right? Even more so with two eyes, because what will happen is if you go cross-eyed or your eyes span outward, what will eventually happen is your brain will tune out what one of the two eyes sees, right? It'll focus on one and it will tune out the other, right? Focus on one and off the other. And that's something that I know from experience, from going cross-eyed on purpose, on accident, right? Over time, your brain will tune out one or the other. Same thing if you try and listen to two different things at the same time. That's why, like, if I'm sitting there watching something on TV, not that I watch a whole lot of TV, but that's not the point. If I'm sitting there watching something on TV and my wife is trying to talk to me, I gotta pause, right? Focus on one thing at a time. If I'm sitting there trying to play guitar, I don't want to be sitting there trying to have a conversation with somebody. Two separate things. They're not mutually agreeable. It's one thing if you're playing a guitar where one hand is serving the other, right? Or if you're playing drums and you've got the two separate hands and the two separate feet all playing together in unison. That's one completely different perspective. But like, say if you're trying to text and drive, for example, perfect example, you'll end up focusing on one and neglecting the other, or, because this is the focal point, right, the one inside the zero, that's the focus, right, the focal point, the fulcrum of the balance. What'll end up happening is you'll hate one and love the other. Your attention, your focus, your care will be entirely on either the road, or your focus, your attention, your care will be entirely on that phone. There's not really a whole lot that you can do, and trying to shift back and forth, that's just creating a mess, you know. But in terms of the balance, that eyelet, right, the eye of the balance is what enables the balance to occur in the first place, right? Think about it from right here. You've got same thing, right? Here's the eye and here's the two parts of the balance. So if you try and focus on multiple things at one time, especially if those things aren't in unison together, it can create a mess. Even within a song, right? If you try and focus on the guitar while trying to focus on the drums at the same time, it can be a bit wonky. Whereas if you just focus on the whole thing, it's a little bit different. But you cannot serve God and mammon. Call God whatever you want in terms of logic. We're looking at nature. And mammon, it's been loosely defined as treasure. You can call it worldly possessions. If you're sitting there hoarding things, I mean, that's not exactly a natural thing. I mean, that's a symbol of the dragon, but people can talk about that, you know. But ultimately, it all belongs to nature, anyways. But if you're sitting there trying to gather upon yourself all these different things, it's gonna, like, all this material wealth, money, property, prestige, you know, all this worldly stuff, it's gonna take your attention off of the life force of nature, right? And that's supposed to be the focal point, right? Now, it doesn't mean that you don't pursue some of these things, right? And I'm not going to say one way or the other, but there's times to, you know, purchase a tool so that way you can perform a job or some other task. There's times where you sit down and you read scripture and you meditate and contemplate upon these things. And then there's times when your focus needs to be on other things in the world. It's not to say that you aren't in the world. It's about not being of the world, right? Because it's not about the money making the man, right? The money doesn't make the man makes the money, right? Let the treasure serve you rather than you serve the treasure. The treasure serves as a servant of God, right? The money is an artificial representation of the life force. It's not the life force itself. And so trying to serve money rather than serve God and serve spirit ultimately distracts, right? And they get all preachy on people, but point being, when it comes to intellect even, right? Knowledge, wisdom, if you take the focus away from the unifying spirit and put it on intellect and try and place logic and intellect above spirit, ultimately it is like that pyramid that is upside down. Eventually it will topple over. Whereas if you place the spirit above the intellect and you place humility above intellect, it creates a balance that can serve everybody. But my whole point in this video is sit down and focus on one thing at a time. If you spend 5, 10, 15 minutes per day focusing on each individual task and then shifting your focus rather than trying to multitask, you'll be able to accomplish a lot more. I personally have found out that if I'm trying to look at something right here and take care of this right here while also trying to do something different down here, it's a mess. You know, if I'm trying to watch TV and chop vegetables, you know, ultimately my focus goes on one or the other, right? And I can't stand using the whole TV metaphor, you know, but it serves a purpose. So, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, great. If not, keep coming back. Hopefully you're learning just as I hope to constantly be learning through life. Anyways, peace.